I don't know who feels safe in this country except for the white supremacist, because I specifically as a black woman definitely don't feel safe. And frankly, my colleagues have been real nice to you today, and I applaud them, but I don't have the same demeanor because I know that multiple colleagues on this side of the aisle have faced death threats. In fact, somebody tried to kill one of my colleagues. And frankly, I don't know if this FBI or under your leadership, if those people would have been caught.
Congress just witnessed one of the most explosive exchanges of the year. Representative Jasmine Crockett launched a fierce attack on FBI Director Kash Patel, questioning his qualifications, leadership, and handling of major threats facing the country. But Patel fired back with a response that instantly grabbed headlines, saying, "I don't care what they say about me as long as we're succeeding in the mission." Was this a moment of accountability, or was it political theater at its finest? And whose arguments were actually backed by the facts? In today's video, we're breaking down this heated confrontation and everything that happened behind the scenes. Let's dive in.
Man, oh man, there has been so much today, and I truly don't know where to start. So I'm just going to make sure that we start off with a few facts. So a couple of facts that we need to make clear for everyone is that, number one, Director Christopher Wray, when he was appointed to be the head of the FBI, was appointed by Donald Trump. Now, I will agree that I definitely take issue with a number of decisions that Donald Trump makes, especially when it comes to the people that he decides to appoint to very important positions, including this one, because I did have to make sure that I wasn't going crazy. But when I say that you are the least qualified FBI director in the history of the FBI, that is real, because you are the only one that never even served with the FBI prior to joining, yet we are supposed to believe that you are the greatest thing since sliced bread. I didn't ask you a question. Now, what I want to go through is to talk about why you are a failure and why, honestly, we just need to tell you bye-bye. I know that you got a little upset and you put on your show for your boss because it seems like you're trying to save your job when it came to talking to Senator Booker yesterday. But let's go through some of your failures. So before you were even confirmed, and I think one of my colleague from Georgia, pointed out that you are already targeting career officials so that you could direct illegal firings. Mind you, these cases that you were so upset about, which are the ones tied to Trump, the cases came through his handpicked FBI director. And frankly, when people sit around and say things like, oh, you know, we're happy because now we feel safe. I don't know who feels safe in this country except for the white supremacist, because I specifically as a black woman definitely don't feel safe. And frankly, my colleagues have been real nice to you today, and I applaud them, but I don't have the same demeanor because I know that multiple colleagues on this side of the aisle have faced death threats. In fact, somebody tried to kill one of my colleagues. And frankly, I don't know if this FBI or under your leadership, if those people would have been caught. I don't have any confidence in you. And if we start talking about the reasons that I lack confidence, we could start with you not just wanting to acknowledge some simple facts. Simple facts like the vast majority of the threats are coming from right-wing extremism. And I know my colleagues have tried to stress this, but I decided that I would maybe do it in a different way. Number one, I have a couple of UCs. Kim Buck, one of multiple Republicans receiving death threats for voting against Jim Jordan as House Speaker.
Without objection.
Another one, Republican lawmaker says she received death threats after voting against Jim Jordan in Speaker's race.
Without objection.
In addition, there was another one from another colleague who now is leaving Congress because they said that they were calling his wife anonymously and threatening her life to the extent that she ended up sleeping with a firearm.
Without objection.
Okay, so here's the deal. How are we supposed to have confidence when you're sitting up here telling the Senate yesterday that it will take you 14 years before you can get the FBI fully staffed to do their jobs. You're also now redirecting resources so that they can go and play ICE agents on the street.
Wow, Jasmine Crockett clearly came into this hearing with one goal: to put Kash Patel on the defensive. From the very beginning, she wasn't asking friendly questions or looking for a simple explanation. She was building a case against Patel's leadership, qualifications, and performance as FBI director. In fact, one of her strongest arguments was that Patel never actually served in the FBI before becoming its director, something she believes makes him uniquely unqualified for the position. But what really stood out to me was how Crockett connected almost every issue back to what she sees as a failure of leadership. Whether she was talking about alleged staffing shortages, threats against lawmakers, or the rise of extremist violence, her message was basically the same. She doesn't trust Kash Patel to handle these challenges. And then she took it a step further. Crockett argued that while Americans are being told they should feel safer, she personally doesn't feel that way. She pointed to death threats against members of Congress and claimed that right-wing extremism continues to be one of the biggest threats facing the country. Her argument was that if the FBI is truly succeeding, then why are so many of these problems still growing? Now, supporters of Kash Patel will obviously disagree with that conclusion. They'll argue that many of these issues existed long before Patel became director, and that blaming him for every challenge facing the FBI isn't fair. But that's not really what Jasmine Crockett was trying to do here. What she was trying to do was expose what she believes are contradictions in Patel's leadership. On one hand, the FBI is claiming success. On the other hand, Crockett is pointing to threats, violence, and staffing concerns as evidence that the agency still has major problems. And honestly, that's what made this exchange so intense. Because this wasn't just a disagreement over policy. This was a direct challenge to Patel's credibility. Crockett wasn't questioning one decision or one investigation. She was questioning whether he should even be leading the FBI in the first place. Now here's where things get even more interesting, because despite all of these accusations, Kash Patel is about to get a chance to respond. And judging by what happens next, it's clear he wasn't planning to back down quietly. Let's watch.
You're getting rid of your most qualified people, and even when it came down to somebody that you consider to be a friend, you were posted up having some fancy dinner to the extent that you posted not only once erroneously, you posted twice erroneously as it relates to catching somebody, and then you want to go and say, let me take a victory lap, because honestly, if it wasn't for parents deciding that they were going to turn in their child, it seems like y'all wouldn't have got there, even though he literally confessed online. So I'm confused about what it is that the FBI is doing except for trying to put on a show for the apprentice, or whatever you want to call him. The day after all of this took place, there was domestic terrorism that was taking place at HBCUs. They were targeted. Yet I didn't hear anything from the FBI about what was going on. And again, black people kept saying, how did we end up in this? Because the numbers are so very clear that white supremacy is a problem. And honestly, I've not heard anything out of you today that makes me believe that you're going to do anything about the white supremacy problem. The one that is leading to children being killed, children being shot, as well as members of their community as they're worshiping in their churches.
The time of the gentlelady has expired. If the gentleman would like to respond to any of that. Well, I mean, I'll respond. Kash Patel, as I said when I introduced him, public defender, former prosecutor, top staffer on the House Intelligence Committee, Deputy Director of National Intelligence with the National Security Council, Chief of Staff at the Department of Defense, and FBI Director. I think that's a pretty good resume for the guy who's now running the top law enforcement agency in our country, and we've seen all the stats that he's given to the committee on how much better they're doing at getting the bad guys than the previous guy was doing. With that, I recognize the gentleman from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Patel, I think you're witnessing some auditions, clickbait auditions for the Academy Award for my Democratic colleagues. We'll see how they fare as they're on MSNBC later on today. Do you care, before I launch into my line of questioning, to respond to Ms. Crockett from Texas on that very elaborate and theatric display?
Here's what I've learned in my government service. I don't give a damn what they say about me as long as I'm succeeding in the mission. We're succeeding in the mission because the men and women of the FBI have never been empowered to do more work and to hit the streets harder than by President Trump's authorities and resources he's given us. And so all I care about is that we are capturing more child predators than ever before, taking more drugs off the streets than ever before, that we are capturing murderers at a significantly historic rate, and we're delivering this country the lowest murder rate in recorded history. That are facts that you cannot dispute. But you can come at me all you want. I don't care.
Thank you, Director.
And this is where the entire hearing took a dramatic turn. Up until this point, Jasmine Crockett had spent several minutes laying out her case against Kash Patel. She accused him of failing to address serious threats facing the country, questioned his leadership, and even suggested that the FBI was more focused on public relations than actually solving problems. But then came the moment everyone was waiting for: Kash Patel's response. And what stood out immediately was that Patel didn't try to answer every single accusation one by one. Instead, he took a completely different approach. His message was simple: judge me by the results. When Patel said, "I don't give a damn what they say about me as long as I'm succeeding in the mission," he was basically telling his critics that political attacks don't matter to him. What matters, according to Patel, is whether the FBI is producing results. He then pointed to what he described as major achievements under his leadership, including arrests of child predators, taking drugs off the streets, capturing violent criminals, and reducing crime rates. In other words, Patel's defense wasn't focused on politics. It was focused on performance. Now, whether you agree with him or not, one thing is clear: that answer was designed to project confidence. Instead of looking rattled by Crockett's accusations, Patel appeared determined to send the message that he believes the FBI is moving in the right direction, and that criticism from lawmakers isn't going to distract him from the job. But what's interesting is that both sides were actually talking about two very different things. Jasmine Crockett was focused on trust, accountability, and the threats she believes are not being taken seriously enough. Kash Patel, on the other hand, was focused on statistics, arrests, and measurable outcomes. So in many ways, they weren't even arguing the same point. Crockett was asking whether Americans should trust the leadership. Patel was answering whether the FBI is producing results. And that's why this exchange has generated so much attention online. Supporters of Patel are likely to watch this and say he completely shut down the criticism by pointing to achievements and refusing to back down. Critics, meanwhile, will argue that he never directly addressed some of the concerns that Crockett raised in the first place. Either way, this hearing gave Americans a clear look at the growing divide over the direction of the FBI and the broader debate about law enforcement in the country. And now the question goes to you. Did Jasmine Crockett successfully expose serious problems within the FBI's leadership, or did Kash Patel's response prove that results matter more than political criticism? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the latest political news and analysis. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.